We're Group 3, and our presentation is about Webvan. What is Webvan? Webvan was founded in 1996 by Louis Borders. The business was an online grocery delivery service, and it aimed to transform delivery services through technology and creating a connection to consumers when delivering to their doorstep. Webvan failed as a business after operating for only 3 years, and this happened due to its pricing, marketing strategy, and their expansion to other cities too rapidly. Mainly because they weren't considered a solid business operating in one city to expand to another. Webvan also owned and operated from their own warehouses, so they did not need to outsource any of their inventory. Next slide, please.
So this timeline gives a brief outline of the events that contributed to Webvan's rise and fall. It includes the initial idea in 1996, the extent of their profit and losses, and their collapse in 2001. As a group, we felt that this outlined the unsuccessful get big fast notion, which in reality was only successful for Amazon. The attainment of funding and the IPO was one of the last successes of the company. Next slide, please. This SWOT analysis briefly outlines the strengths that could have led to Webvan's successes, but also then the weaknesses that led to their demise. I'll be arguing that their primary strength was their ability to gain a large amount of funding in a relatively small amount of time. So the following presentation is also going to look at some of the other elements of the SWOT analysis. So I'll also be looking at the first question, which discusses the successes of Webvan. Despite the previous timeline ultimately showing that Webvan failed, there are a few arguments that suggest some elements of the business plan to disrupt the $450 billion grocery market were in fact credible. So next slide, please. So Webvan hired George T. Shaheen in 1999. He was an experienced CEO at Anderson Consulting, and their aim in doing this was to establish company-wide goals and aid in the guidance of employees at all levels. But Shaheen lacked awareness of the food industry. Webvan's other success was lining up a board of experienced venture capitalists. Benchmark Capital, Sequoia Capital, and Borders were the first to invest at $3.5 million each, with Sequoia later investing another $50 million. SoftBank Capital, Goldman Sachs, E-Trade, and Yahoo were among others to invest, and the total equated to $393.6 million. This was also, $375 million in an initial public offering was also made. So the pie chart to the right outlines the breakdown of funding, proving their ability to gain investors, and shows that the funding was one of their primary successes. Next slide, please. So Webvan's aims of offering a wide variety of products at cheaper prices and a convenient delivery window of 30 minutes is not dissimilar to that of online grocery stores today. However, I would argue that their initial successes with regards to funding is what inevitably led to their demise. Using the $1 billion in funds obtained, Webvan built state-of-the-art infrastructure, which they believed would improve efficiency. But this was a step too far, as their technology failed to meet operations, as they were yet to have the returning customer base that was a prerequisite to the smooth running of the business, thus exemplifying that Webvan had a number of initial successes, but that their desire to get big fast was flawed.
Question 2. What can others, such as Ocado and Instacart, learn from Webvan's story? Gibbs' reflective cycle provides an excellent framework for structured reflective thinking, so we will use it to answer this question. Firstly, let's reflect on where Webvan went wrong. After its first day of trading in 1999, Webvan was worth $8.7 billion. However, it failed just 2 years later. But why? Firstly, hiring former business consultant George Shaheen instead of a grocery sector or technology expert was a huge mistake. Shaheen's lack of experience in the sector led to poor decision-making, such as cutting costs by switching to cheaper suppliers of produce. Obviously, this just resulted in poor quality produce, which led to customer dissatisfaction. Webvan invested a significant $25 million in each of its warehouses, which only had capacity utilizations of 60 to 70%. To illustrate this expense, HomeGrocer.com entered the market just 1 year later than Webvan, but its slower growth strategy facilitated careful decision-making, enabling them to purchase significantly cheaper, smaller, and more efficient $5 million warehouses. However, HomeGrocer.com was rebranded to Webvan, but Webvan failed to effectively adopt its efficient practices, and both companies failed. It's clear that Webvan's rapid growth strategy was not suitable for the grocery delivery sector. Perhaps Webvan's biggest downfall was viewing its customers as statistics rather than humans. Taking a production-oriented approach in an infant sector is unlikely to ever be successful. Customers need a reason to come back, and Webvan's poor quality produce did not provide sufficient reason. Consequently, Webvan's 750,000 customers did not frequent the business as much as anticipated. Therefore, revenue was less than expected, eventually resulting in bankruptcy. Current grocery delivery sector companies can use this reflection on how Webvan failed to calibrate a business model that is bound for success. Abby will now take you through how these companies can achieve this.
So following Webvan's failures using SWOT analysis, we decided to analyse how the market for online grocers has now changed. So a weakness of Webvan was that they overestimated their market population size. However, this is now a strength and a new opportunity to emerging online grocers. This is because when Webvan launched in 1999, only 0.9% of the global population had access to the internet. However, from research conducted in March 2021, it's now believed that 65.6% of the global population have access to the internet. This means more people are able to use online and e-commerce services. Therefore, this creates an increase in the demand for online grocers. For example, a situation we can all relate to was during the pandemic, particularly at the start. The demand for online grocers rapidly increased. This is because the restrictions from the pandemic largely encouraged most of the population to use online grocers. From this, we can now see that the pandemic has made consumers reluctant to do their own grocery shopping in person. This may be because consumers have realised it works more conveniently for them, so we can see that shopping habits of the population have changed since 1999. However, a threat to new emerging home delivery groceries would be the threat of competitors. So Ocado and Instacart may suffer from the threat of their competitors such as Tesco and Sainsbury's because Ocado and Instacart are solely operating online. They don't have any physical stores, whereas Tesco and Sainsbury's have the option for their consumers to have the experience of in-store shopping as well as online. The benefit of having physical stores means that customers can see the products, which assists in facilitating their purchasing decisions. This is because the experience customers get from physical stores cannot be replicated in online stores. And because consumers like to be given the choice, this acts as a threat to grocers who are solely operating online, because their competitors can offer exactly what they have and more. So from this, we can conclude that the current market population for online grocers has rapidly increased, and so new emerging grocers such as Ocado and Instacart will have more demand to provide for. This means Ocado and Instacart are likely to have more success than Webvan, as the shopping habits of the population have drastically changed. However, Ocado and Instacart should consider the impacts of not having physical stores and weigh up the benefits and drawbacks of this. Next slide, please.
Question 3. Critically analyze what, if anything, Webvan could do to enhance their environmental and sustainability credentials, or how they can present themselves as an ethical business. As we all know, this pandemic has tremendously changed online delivery services forever. Everything is now accessible for online delivery, whether it's food, clothes, medicine, and more. This is why I believe if Webvan relaunched, they'd have so much competition. However, they can stand out when enhancing their environmental and ethical credentials. Firstly, they could deliver organic foods, especially considering they have their own warehouses. They'd be promoting healthier eating to consumers and therefore healthier lifestyles. They could also use sustainable materials like biodegradable bags, recycled packaging, compost packages, all instead of plastic, due to its severe harm to the environment, and all of these would be excellent replacements. Using electric cars to deliver groceries, considering they produce lower emissions. They're easy to maintain and they definitely require less fuel consumption. Electric vehicles are also eco-friendly and will allow the business to save money in the long term. Sammy's going to go a bit more into detail about that, but for now, next slide, please. Culture of the business. I do believe that the culture of the business is one of the most important ways a business could prove its ethical stance, essentially to its consumers, employees, and staff, because having that type of working environment can definitely improve the efficiency and success of the business. Firstly, they could focus on team building. A way to do so is creating a friendly environment in the workplace where everyone is comfortable, treated with respect, whether it's employees, managers, or the business owners. Fair wages to everyone. Now, it's important that workers feel valued for the time and effort they're spending at the workplace. So at the very least, workers should be able to receive wages that allow them access to their basic everyday necessities. And lastly, there should be an encouragement of appreciating employees for the time and effort they spend, whether it's a promotion or just recognition for their efforts overall. Next slide, please.
Webvan could also adopt a circular design. Circular design is about creating products and services that no longer have a lifestyle with a beginning, middle, and an end. The purpose is to design products that can be made to be made again. There'll be less waste and more value added to the ecosystem. Implementing this into our delivery process will allow Webvan to develop a competitive advantage against other delivery services such as Ocado, offering more than just a delivery service, but a collection service at the same time. With subscriptions paid monthly, food gets delivered to the consumer's home once per week. When the food is being delivered, the previous food waste from the week before will be collected for anaerobic digestion. This is a safe biological process in which food waste is broken down by microorganisms in the absence of light and oxygen to produce renewable energy and a nutrient-rich biofertilizer. Therefore, the waste collected from homes is put into an anaerobic digester tank, which breaks it down into natural fertilizers that can be used to help grow the organic crops that we sell by Webvan. Like Greta touched on earlier, to remain environmentally friendly, all delivery vans used by Webvan will be electric, as on average, electric vans use almost 3 times less CO2 than equivalent petrol or diesel vans. Next slide, please. Webvan could solar panel their warehouses to minimize the amount of electricity and energy being used. These can be used to power the fridges and freezers. They can also be used to power the lights with motion-sensitive power switches to make sure energy is only being used where necessary. To reduce plastic usage, Webvan should package their products in biodegradable bags made from natural starches such as corn tapioca and even bio-waste. These bags can break down in 15 seconds in hot water. These bags are edible and don't endanger animals. Therefore, using these bags will increase Webvan's ethical stance as well as its environmental credentials, giving them a competitive advantage against competitors such as Instacart as consumers become more concerned for the environment and sustainability. Across the EU, the number of green MEPs increased by 40% to 69, making them the 4th largest grouping, proving this to be a factor when consumers choose their food delivery service. Thank you for listening.